Billionaire fell down the stairs, and only Maid ran to help. What she did next shocked everyone. The sound of bone breaking echoed through the mansion like a gunshot. Marcus Wellington, one of the richest men in America, lay twisted at the bottom of the grand marble staircase. Blood pooled beneath his head, spreading across the white marble like spilled wine. His leg bent in a way that made your stomach turn just looking at it. The bone pushed against his expensive pants, trying to break through. His $300 million empire meant nothing now, and nobody came to help him. The chef heard the crash from the kitchen. He paused for just a second, his knife hovering over the carrots he was chopping. Then he kept cutting. Chop, chop, chop. The butler heard it from the library. He stopped dusting for a moment, turned his head toward the sound, then went back to his feather duster. The books wouldn't clean themselves. The driver heard it from the garage. He was polishing the Bentley, the fifth car in a collection of 12. He looked up. He looked toward the mansion. Then he dipped his cloth back into the polish and kept rubbing. They all heard their boss fall. They all knew he was hurt. The sound was too loud, too terrible to be anything else. But not one person moved. Not one person cared. Because Marcus Wellington was the meanest man they'd ever met. He'd fired people for smiling too much. He'd screamed at the chef for putting too much salt in his soup. He'd made the housekeeper cry because a pillow was tilted at the wrong angle. He walked past his employees like they were furniture, like they didn't have names or families or feelings. So when he fell, they remembered every cruel word, every cold stare, every moment he'd made them feel small and worthless. And they stayed where they were. But upstairs in a tiny bedroom, tucked away in the servants' quarters, a young maid named Maya was folding laundry when she heard the terrible sound. Her heart jumped into her throat. The basket of towels fell from her hands, white terry cloths spilling across the floor like snow. She didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She just ran. Her feet pounded down the hallway. The floorboards creaked under her weight. Her purple uniform flew behind her like a cape. She didn't care that Mr. Wellington had yelled at her yesterday for leaving a water spot on a glass. She didn't care that he cut her hours last month because he said she wasn't working hard enough, even though she scrubbed floors until her knees bled. She didn't care that he'd never once said thank you in the 2 years she'd worked there. She didn't care that he looked through her like she was a ghost. Someone was hurt. That was all that mattered. Maya's mother had taught her something when she was just a little girl. "Baby," her mama had said, holding Maya's small hands in her wrinkled ones, "you treat people right, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be the kind of person who does good things." Maya never forgot those words, even when life got hard, even when her father left, even when her mother got sick and the medical bills piled up like mountains, even when she had to drop out of college to take care of her, even when she had to work 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. She chose kindness every single day. Maya reached the top of the stairs and her breath caught in her chest. There he was, the powerful billionaire, the man who owned 12 companies and had mansions in 5 countries, the man who had been on the cover of Fortune magazine 6 times, the man who could buy anything he wanted with a snap of his fingers. He looked so small now, so broken, so human. "Mr. Wellington," she screamed as she flew down the stairs. Her feet barely touched the steps. 1, 2, 3. She took them 2 at a time, her heart hammering so loud she could hear it in her ears. She dropped to her knees beside him, not caring that his blood was soaking into her uniform. The warm, sticky liquid seeped through the purple fabric, staining it dark. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely pull out her phone. Up close, it was worse than she'd thought. His face was pale, almost gray. Sweat covered his forehead despite the cool air. His breathing came in short, raspy gasps. The cut on his head was deep, so deep she could see white beneath the red. And his leg, oh God, his leg. "Sir, can you hear me?" Her voice cracked, his eyes opened just a crack. They were filled with pain and something else, confusion, shock. Like he couldn't believe someone was actually there, like he was seeing a miracle. "Don't move, sir," Maya whispered. Her voice was trembling, but she tried to sound strong, confident, in control, even though inside she was screaming. "I'm calling for help right now. Just hold on." Please hold on. She dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The phone slipped in her hand, slick with his blood. She almost dropped it but caught it at the last second. 911. What's your emergency? A man fell downstairs. There's so much blood. His leg is broken really bad. I think his bone is sticking out. Please hurry. Please. Maya's voice cracked and tears streamed down her face. Stay calm, ma'am. Is he breathing? Maya pressed her ear close to his chest. She could feel his heart beating. Thump, 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 thump. Fast and irregular, like a scared bird trapped in a cage. Yes, he's breathing. But it sounds wrong. It sounds bad. Good, that's good. Don't move him. Moving him could make his injuries worse. Help is coming. Can you tell me your location? Wellington Estate, 1247 Riverside Drive. The big white mansion with the iron gates. Please hurry. Please. Ambulance is on the way. 10 minutes. Can you stay with him? Yes, I'm not going anywhere. Maya's voice was firm now, stronger. She had a job to do. Someone needed her. 10 minutes felt like forever. Maya looked around the huge mansion. The crystal chandelier sparkled above them, thousands of tiny lights dancing like diamonds. The paintings on the walls probably cost more than Maya would make in her entire life. Everything was beautiful, perfect, cold. Where is everyone? She called out, her voice echoing through the empty halls. Someone help us, please. Silence, just the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Tick, tock, tick, tock. She knew they heard her. The mansion wasn't that big. They had to hear. They were choosing not to come. They were choosing to leave him there, to let him suffer alone. Fresh tears rolled down Maya's face, not tears for herself. Tears for this broken man who had everything but nothing at all. She yanked off her white apron and pressed it against the deep cut on his forehead. The fabric turned red instantly, blood soaking through like water through paper. But she kept pressure on it, just like they taught her in the first aid class at church. You're going to be okay, she whispered, over and over like a prayer. I promise. I'm right here. You're not alone. I've got you. Marcus tried to speak. His lips moved, but only a groan came out. Low and painful and full of agony. Then with what looked like all his strength, with every ounce of energy he had left, he whispered one word. Why? Maya leaned closer. She could smell the blood, metallic and sharp, could feel his breath on her cheek, weak and shallow. Why what, Mr. Wellington? Why? He coughed and blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, a thin red line against his pale skin. Why are you helping me? The question broke Maya's heart into a million pieces. In all her life, through all her struggles and pain, no one had ever asked her that. Why do you help? Why do you care? Why do you give when you have nothing? Because you're hurt, she said softly, squeezing his cold hand. His fingers felt like ice, like death. Because nobody should be scared and alone. Because you're a person, and every person deserves kindness. Every single one. A single tear rolled down Marcus's cheek, just one. But in that tear was a lifetime of loneliness, of pain, of being surrounded by people but never truly being seen. In 53 years of life, surrounded by money and power and success. Maybe this was the first time anyone had shown him real kindness, the kind that asked for nothing in return, the kind that came from the heart. His fingers wrapped weakly around hers. His grip was so faint she could barely feel it. I've been so terrible to you, he breathed. So cruel. Shh, save your strength. Help is coming. But he kept talking. The words poured out like he'd been holding them inside his whole life, like a dam breaking. I'm terrible to everyone. I have everything a person could want. 12 companies, $300 million, cars, houses, power. But I'm so alone, so empty. I have 27 rooms in this house, and I'm alone in every single one. Nobody talks to me unless I pay them. Nobody smiles at me unless it's fake. I built an empire and lost myself. His voice got quieter, weaker. My wife left me 5 years ago. She said I wasn't a person anymore. I was just a machine that made money. My kids don't call. They took their inheritance early and ran. My friends aren't friends. They're business partners who laugh at my jokes because I sign their paychecks. Maya felt her tears falling faster now, dripping onto their joined hands. When I woke up this morning, Marcus whispered, I wondered why I even bother. What's the point of all this wealth if I'm miserable? And then I fell, and I thought, this is it. This is how it ends, alone on the floor, and nobody will care. You're not alone right now, Maya said firmly, squeezing his hand tighter. I'm here, and I'm not leaving. I care. I care so much. Something changed in his eyes then, something soft and real and human, like a light turning on in a dark room, like hope. The sound of sirens filled the air, faint at first, then louder, closer. Red and blue lights flashed through the tall windows, painting the white walls in color. They're here, Maya said, relief flooding through her like warm water. See? You're going to be okay. You're going to make it. The front doors burst open with a bang that echoed through the mansion. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher and medical equipment. Their boots pounded on the marble floor. They swarmed around Marcus like bees, checking his heart rate, his breathing, his injuries, asking questions fast. What's his name? How long has he been unconscious? Did he hit his head? How much blood has he lost? Maya answered everything she could, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. Are you family? One paramedic asked, looking at her blood-stained uniform. No, I'm just the... She comes with me. Marcus's voice was suddenly strong and loud, almost desperate, like he was using the last of his strength. Don't leave me, please. Maya's eyes went wide. In 2 years of working there, he'd never said please. Not once. Not ever. I'll be right there, she promised, tears streaming down her face. I won't leave you. I promise. They loaded Marcus onto the stretcher, strapping him down carefully. His face twisted in pain as they moved him, but he didn't let go of Maya's hand. He held on like she was a lifeline, like she was the only thing keeping him tethered to this world. Maya climbed into the ambulance after him, still in her blood-stained uniform, still holding his hand tight. As they pulled away from the mansion, sirens wailing, Maya looked back through the small window. Now they appeared. The chef stood in the doorway, his white apron still clean. The butler stood by the window, his feather duster hanging limp in his hand. The driver stood by the garage, his polishing cloth forgotten. The gardener, the housekeeper, the groundskeeper. All the staff members who'd heard their boss fall and chosen to do nothing. They stood at the windows and doors watching with shocked faces. Some looked guilty, some looked scared, some looked confused, but all of them were watching their boss leave, clinging to the hand of the one person who cared, the lowest paid employee in the house, the one he treated the worst. At the hospital, doctors rushed Marcus into emergency surgery. Compound fracture of the femur, severe head trauma, possible internal bleeding, cracked ribs. We need to operate now. They wheeled him away on a gurney, through double doors that said, authorized personnel only. It's going to be a long surgery, a nurse with kind eyes told Maya. At least 6 or 7 hours, maybe more. You should go home. Get some rest. Clean up. Maya looked down at herself. Her purple uniform was soaked with blood, sticking to her skin. Her hands were red and sticky. Her knees were bruised from kneeling on the hard marble floor. I'm staying, Maya said quietly. I promised him I wouldn't leave. The nurse smiled softly. Okay, honey. There's a bathroom down the hall where you can clean up a bit, and the vending machines are around the corner. But Maya didn't move. She just sat in that hard plastic chair in the waiting room. No phone to distract her, no food, no water, no break, just waiting, praying, hoping. The clock on the wall moved so slowly it felt broken. Each minute lasted an hour. Each hour felt like a day. Other people came and went. A woman with a crying baby, an old man with a cane, a young couple holding hands and looking scared. They all had someone waiting for them, someone who cared. Maya wondered if anyone would come for Marcus. Would his ex-wife show up? His children? His business partners? But the hours passed and nobody came. Just Maya, alone in the waiting room, keeping her promise. 7 hours later, a doctor finally came out. He looked tired, his scrubs wrinkled and his eyes red. but he was smiling. "Are you the young woman who saved Mr. Wellington's life?" Maya stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "Is he alive? Is he okay?" The doctor nodded. "He's going to make a full recovery. It was touch and go for a while. He lost a lot of blood. The surgery was complicated. But he's strong. Stronger than we thought." He paused and looked at Maya seriously. "But I need you to understand something. If you hadn't stopped the bleeding when you did, if you hadn't called 911 so quickly, he would have died. Without question. You saved his life." Maya's legs gave out. She collapsed back into the chair and cried. Big, ugly, grateful, overwhelming tears. The kind that come from somewhere deep inside. The kind that shake your whole body. The doctor put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're a hero." But Maya didn't feel like a hero. She just felt thankful. So thankful. When they finally let her see him 2 hours later, Maya walked down the sterile white hallway on shaking legs. Her heart pounded. What would she say? How do you talk to someone after you save their life? Marcus was lying in a hospital bed in room 347. He had tubes and wires connected to him, running to machines that beeped and hummed. Bandages covered his head, wrapped around like a white crown. His leg was in a huge cast, suspended in the air by some kind of sling. His face was still pale, but not gray anymore. Not dying, but his eyes were open. And when he saw Maya walk in, he smiled. A real, genuine smile. The kind that reaches your eyes and lights up your whole face. "You stayed," he whispered. His voice was rough and scratchy, probably from the breathing tube during surgery. "I told you I would." Marcus reached for her hand with the one that didn't have an IV attached. Maya took it gently, careful not to hurt him. "When I was lying at the bottom of those stairs," Marcus said slowly, like every word took effort, "I had a moment of perfect clarity, like my whole life played out in front of me. I own 12 companies. I have $300 million. I have cars and houses and power. I've been on magazine covers. I've met presidents. I've closed billion-dollar deals." He paused, his eyes getting wet. "But when I fell, when I really needed help, nobody came. Nobody cared if I lived or died. And I realized something terrible. I realized that in my whole life, I've never done anything that mattered. I've never helped anyone. I've never been kind. I've built this empire of money and success, but I'm the poorest man alive." Tears rolled down his cheeks now, sliding into the white bandages. "Nobody except you. The woman I paid the least. The woman I treated the worst. The woman whose name I probably didn't even remember most days. You were the only one who saw me as a human being. You ran toward me when everyone else walked away." Maya didn't know what to say. She just squeezed his hand tighter. "I've wasted my whole life," he continued. His voice broke. "I thought success meant money. I thought power made you important. But I was wrong. I've been so wrong about everything. My wife tried to tell me. My kids tried to show me. But I didn't listen. I just kept making more money and losing more of myself." He looked directly into Maya's eyes. "I want to change. I need to change. I want to be the kind of person who deserves your kindness. Will you help me? Will you teach me how to be human again?" Maya smiled through her own tears. "I think you already know how. You just forgot for a while, but it's still there, deep inside. I saw it today, when you held my hand. When you said please, when you cried. That's the real you. That's the person you forgot you were." Marcus squeezed her hand. "I'm going to be different. I promise you. Things are going to change. Really change." And they did. 3 weeks later, Marcus came home from the hospital. He still had the cast on his leg and needed a wheelchair to get around. But he was alive. He was healing. The staff lined up nervously by the front door, not knowing what to expect. Would he fire them all for abandoning him? Would he scream and yell? Would he be the same old cruel Marcus? But he wasn't. Marcus stopped his wheelchair in front of each one of them. He looked them in the eyes, really looked. "Robert," he said to the butler, "I owe you an apology. I've been terrible to you for 15 years. You've worked for me longer than anyone. And I've never once asked how you are. Never asked about your family. I know you have a daughter. What's her name?" Robert's mouth fell open. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Sarah, sir. Her name is Sarah. How old is she? 12, sir. Is she in school? Does she like it? She plays piano, sir. She has a recital next week. Marcus smiled. I'd love to come, if that's okay with you and your daughter. I'd be honored. Robert's eyes filled with tears. Yes, sir. She'd love that. To Margaret, the chef, thank you for taking care of the house while I was gone. And thank you for all the meals over the years. Your cooking has always been wonderful. I should have told you that every single day. I'm sorry I didn't. Margaret put a hand over her mouth and cried. To Thomas, the driver, I know your son is in college. What's he studying? Thomas looked shocked. Engineering, sir. That's wonderful. You must be so proud. I am, sir. Very proud. One by one, Marcus spoke to each staff member, really spoke to them, like they were people, like they mattered, like they had names and families and dreams and feelings. Some cried, some just stood there in shock, some smiled. But Maya noticed something else. Every single day, without fail, Marcus made a point to find her. No matter what he was doing, no matter how busy he was. Good morning, Maya. Did you sleep well? How is your mother feeling today? Is her medicine helping with the pain? Thank you for everything you do. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. The other staff members noticed too. Some whispered when Maya walked by. Some looked jealous. Some looked confused. But Maya understood something they didn't. Marcus wasn't just being nice. He was learning how to be human again, how to connect, how to care, and she was honored to help him on that journey. 6 months passed. The mansion felt different now. There was laughter in the hallways instead of silence. There were conversations instead of orders. There was warmth instead of cold. Marcus had dinner with his staff every Sunday. He asked about their families, their dreams, their lives. He learned their children's names, their favorite foods, their hobbies. He started paying everyone more, a lot more. He gave them health care, paid vacation, bonuses. But more than that, he gave them respect, kindness, humanity. The mansion wasn't just a workplace anymore. It was a home, a family. One evening, Marcus called Maya into his study. It was the first time she'd been in there since the accident. Please sit down, he said, smiling warmly and gesturing to the leather chair across from his desk. Maya sat nervously, her hands fidgeted in her lap. Did I do something wrong? No, Maya, the opposite. You did everything right. He slid an envelope across the mahogany desk. His hands were steady now, healed, strong. Maya opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a check. Her eyes went wide when she saw the amount. She blinked, sure she was seeing it wrong, but the numbers didn't change. $50,000. I can't accept this, she gasped, pushing the envelope back toward him. This is too much. It's not enough. It's not nearly enough. Marcus stood up slowly, still favoring his leg a bit. He came around the desk and knelt beside her chair, looking up at her. You saved my life, Maya. In every way a person can be saved. You reminded me what it means to be human, to care about people, to be cared about. His eyes were wet with tears. I know you've always wanted to become a nurse. You told me once, remember? I was yelling at you about something stupid. I think you forgot to fluff a couch cushion or some ridiculous thing. And you were crying, and you said under your breath, one day I'll be a nurse and help people who really need it. You probably didn't think I heard you, but I did. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. She couldn't believe he remembered that. It was over a year ago. She'd whispered it so quietly. I've set up a full scholarship for you, Marcus continued. Nursing school, all 4 years. Books, supplies, housing, everything. And a stipend so you don't have to work 3 jobs anymore. So you can focus on studying, on your dream. He took both her hands in his. You were born to help people, Maya. It's who you are. It's in your soul. Let me help you help others. Please. It would be the greatest honor of my life. Maya couldn't speak. She just cried. Big, overwhelmed, grateful tears. Marcus came around the desk and hugged her. A real, warm, human hug. The kind that says thank you and I'm sorry and you matter and I see you all at once. You saw me when I was invisible to everyone else. he whispered into her hair, when I was just a broken man on the floor. Not a billionaire, not a CEO, just a person who needed help. Now I want to help you shine. I want the whole world to see what I see. An angel. Maya went to nursing school that fall. She studied hard, harder than she'd ever studied in her life. She made friends who became like sisters. She discovered she was even better at helping people than she dreamed. She had a gift for knowing what patients needed before they even asked. Marcus came to every important moment. Her first day of classes, her first clinical rotation, her midterms, her finals. He sat in the audience at her presentations. He cheered louder than anyone when she got awards. And 4 years later, when Maya walked across that stage in her cap and gown to receive her nursing degree, Marcus was in the front row. He stood up when they called her name, even though his legs still bothered him sometimes. He cheered and clapped and cried. After the ceremony, they took a picture together outside under the oak trees, the billionaire and the maid. Except they weren't boss and employee anymore. They were family. I'm so proud of you, Marcus said, hugging her tight. So incredibly proud. I wouldn't be here without you, Maya said. No. Marcus shook his head firmly. I wouldn't be here without you. You saved my life, Maya. And I don't just mean on the stairs. I mean really saved me. From being a terrible person, from dying inside while I was still breathing. You showed me that the richest thing in life isn't money, it's kindness. It's caring about people. It's being there when someone falls. Maya smiled, her heart full. We saved each other. And that was the truth. Marcus never forgot that day on the stairs. He never forgot the feeling of lying there, broken and bleeding, while everyone walked away. And he never forgot the one person who ran toward him when he needed it most. He started a foundation called the Maya Foundation. It helped young people from poor families go to college. Thousands of students got scholarships over the years, all because one maid chose kindness over cruelty. Maya became a nurse and eventually opened her own clinic in the poorest part of town, where people couldn't afford health care. And every month, like clockwork, a mysterious donation appeared in the clinic's account. A big one, always exactly what was needed. Maya never asked who it was from. She already knew. Years later, when Marcus was 70 years old, a reporter came to interview him for a documentary about successful businessmen. Mr. Wellington, the reporter asked, what would you say is the best investment you ever made? Which company gave you the biggest return? Everyone watching expected him to talk about one of his tech startups or real estate deals, something about stocks or acquisitions or billion-dollar mergers. But Marcus smiled and said something that shocked them all. The best investment I ever made was learning that people matter more than profits, that kindness is more valuable than money, that treating people with respect and humanity is the only thing that truly matters. A young woman taught me that when I was at my lowest point, when I'd forgotten how to be human. She taught me that true wealth is measured by how you treat people when they can't do anything for you. The reporter leaned forward. Who was she? Can we interview her? Marcus's eyes got misty. An angel. An angel in a purple uniform who saw a broken man on the floor and decided he was worth saving. Not because of my money, not because of my power, but because I was a human being who needed help. He paused and looked directly at the camera. That fall was the best thing that ever happened to me. It broke my leg, but it healed my soul. Now I want to ask you something important. What would you have done if you were in that mansion that day? Would you have run to help like Maya? Or would you have stayed back like everyone else? Be honest, it's easy to say we'd help. But when someone has been cruel to us, when they've made us feel small and worthless, would we really run toward them? Would we really care? And here's another question that I really want you to think about. Have you ever helped someone even when they didn't deserve it? Someone who was mean to you? Someone who hurt you? How did it change your life? How did it change their life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one and I love hearing your stories. Your real stories. The ones that make me cry and believe in humanity again. And if this story touched your heart, don't leave yet. Hit that subscribe button right now for emotional stories. We share powerful, heartfelt stories like this one every single week. Stories that make you feel something real, something deep, something that stays with you long after the video ends. Stories that remind you what matters most in this crazy world. That kindness isn't weakness, that helping others heals us too, that we're all just people trying to make it through. Click subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and join our family of over 500,000 people who believe in the power of kindness. Because the world needs more people who run toward others when they fall, more people who see humans, not just titles, more people who choose compassion over cruelty. Be that person. Subscribe to Emotional Stories now. Your heart will thank you. And remember, every story we tell, every video we make, is designed to make you feel. To remind you that emotions aren't weakness, they're what make us human. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep choosing kindness.